Day. Liberal Senator Andrew Bragg and Labor MP Anika Wells. Good morning to you both. Thanks for your time. Anika, first to you, why does Labor have problems with David Coleman's bid to expand his powers under Section 501 of the Migration Act?
Well, my primary issue with what I just watched on on the footage he just gave us then is the hypocrisy in what he's saying. He's coming out talking about strengthening the character test under Section 501, but he is still granting a visa to Raheem Kassam despite that character test to come to CPAC this weekend. I mean, this is now a government and a Prime Minister that has refused to comment and refused to block this visa, despite the fact that they have blocked 2,000 visas on the basis of the character test since 2014. So I'm glad that he's prepared to talk about the character test, but they're not prepared to talk about one particular test that they're facing this weekend.
Senator Bragg, before we get to you, let's just have a listen to Donald Trump. He's speaking to a couple of the El Paso police.
I would love to have this book
come
signed.
on, let's go. Let's do it.
If you could just sign right
I'll do it
across the
right.
road, it'd be fantastic.
Give me one of those special pens. Give me one of those. Give me one of those pens. Okay. Give me one of them, yeah. It's one for you, not for me. This is fine. Thank you, darling. That's really good. Thank you very much. That's fantastic. Wow. Hey, you've grown up nicely. Oh, I wish. That's beautiful. Beautiful. That's your boy. Yes, sir. So that was just recently.
That's recently, right?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Good looking guy. Is that what he wants to do?
Yes, sir. So Marine Corps.
Marine Corps. What's his first name?
Frankie. Or Frank.
I.
Yes, sir.
Looks beautiful.
Very proud of you. Got him to meet you.
That's good.
You got photobombed everybody.
Yeah, what was that? Was that a photo bomb? Say hello to him.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Pleasure to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Sir, so this is Agent Tuchman. So he responded instantaneously, and he really coordinated the 140 personnel, our BORTAC, our tactical team, our medical team, our peer support, and our air support. And he went to the incident command, and he really coordinated that on behalf of the CBP.
Great job. That was some perfect coordination.
Appreciate it.
They're all talking about it. All over the world, they're all talking about the job you all do.
The whole responsibility.
Fantastic job.
And sir, the rest of these individuals, again, they provided the tactical support, the medical support, the peer support, and air support. Again, they were 17 of the 140 personnel from CBP that responded.
Who's going to mess around with these people?
I don't think anybody, sir.
Huh? Thank you very much.
Mr. President, son.
Thank you.
Mr. President.
Thank you very much.
Mrs. First Lady.
Thank you. Nice to meet 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 you.
Yes. I like that.
Donald Trump there meeting with first responders. He is in El Paso, Texas. He's also going to visit Ohio, the two places where collectively 31 people were killed in those mass shootings. But the president there being warmly received by first responders. Let's go live now to our panel. Senator Bragg is with us along with Anika Wells. Senator Bragg, let's get back to the issue that we mentioned earlier before we went to Donald Trump, and that relates to the visa powers of the minister. Why is the government making a change here when potentially, as Christina Keneally has made the point this morning, this could see a miner who's lived in Australia their whole lives from New Zealand deported because they stole something from a corner store?
Well, g'day, Kieran. Look, we make no excuses for protecting Australians. That is always our first priority, and certainly we don't take lectures from the Labor Party on national security issues and border security issues. We've deported 5,000 people since 2014. which compares to just about 600 when Labor was in office. So we've been prepared to remove people who are dangerous in our community. These laws, which have been recommended by the agencies, will allow us to remove people who've committed serious offences. I think that's perfectly reasonable.
Anika, what do you make of that? It's, in some aspects, really taking away the discretion of a judge. If you're going to be charged with an offence and found guilty but given a suspended sentence as some form of leniency, isn't the government taking that away from the accused?
Well, I just want to pick up on what Andrew said there. If you're going to be tough on law and order, you're going to be tough on security, and you're trying to make yourself out to be some kind of moral authority on these issues, then why can you cancel 2,000 visas on the basis of the character test, but you will not cancel the visa of Raheem Kassan on the basis of the character test?
Senator Bragg?
Well, we're not into restraining free speech, and I think it's very rough from the Labor Party's point of view to point out that people shouldn't speak at conferences and associate with people of different views. When you consider the sometimes disgusting speeches and rants that are presented by union officials at their conferences, and in fact I can recall only about 18 months ago certain officials going into the street and threatening government officials, saying they would come around to their houses and footy clubs to get them. So we certainly won't be lectured on these issues by the Labor Party.
What about we'll change our focus now to this comment from Andrew Hastie. He's the head of the Parliamentary Intelligence Committee. It's quite an influential committee, not to mention his record as an SAS officer and much acclaimed military service. Andrew Bragg, is this the right sort of intervention, or does this inflame relations with China?
Well, my view has always been that we don't need to choose between the United States and China. Now, I went along on Sunday and heard Secretary Pompeo address the issues in our region, and that was a very pointed speech. Now, as you know, our number one export destination is China. Our biggest single source of foreign direct investment is the United States. We are deeply enmeshed with both countries economically. We are more engaged with the United States on a security and cultural basis. But we are doing everything we can to improve our position in our own region. That's why we're doing the Pacific Step Up. And that's why we also have foreign interference laws. So if people have concerns about foreign interference in our own country, we now have very strong laws in place to deal with those.
I think the point Andrew Hastie was making was that we know China is guilty of systemic abuse of minorities, like we saw with the rise of Germany, in particular with Uyghur Muslims out in the West. Anika, do you think this is a cause for concern?
Well, I was always taught in high school debating that the first person to mention the Nazis loses. So I was surprised at the language that Andrew Hastie chose to use. And I think what is noteworthy about this is it's part of this festival of democracy that we're seeing from the Liberal backbenchers, this outbreak of opinion and policy initiatives that we're seeing from the backbenchers but not from the front bench. And maybe that's because there's a general lack of agenda coming from senior Liberal leaders that the backbench feel like they have the opportunity to step up and set the agenda themselves.
I might just pick up on that because
yeah, sure,
there's a huge body of work. Because, I mean, there's a huge body of work going on at the moment, which is being led by the PM, who spent a lot of time in the Pacific Islands, Alex Hawke and Maurice Payne and others. We're really trying to engage more heavily with our Pacific partners. This is our backyard. These are our partners and our friends, and they need to know that we've got their backs and we're deeply engaged in that area. So I think, like a lot of what Secretary Pompeo was talking about on Sunday about our own efforts, I think we're already doing quite a lot.
But would you urge some of your colleagues to rein in the rhetoric? Because, I mean, you might be of that view, but how does it assist to be expressing that in one of the national papers that we're comparing the rise of China to the rise of Nazi Germany?
Well, I was always taught at school not to give people advice on national TV. But look, I mean, I think I've made my point that we have a significant agenda already underway I don't think we need to choose between the US and China, and that is my opinion.
Anika, to Andrew Bragg's point, do you think that there isn't enough support in the Labor Party to be coming out and giving alternate opinions? It's not like you guys can speak out against anything that's decided in caucus. And we did see Andrew Bragg take a stance on superannuation, and hasn't received too much blowback yet.
Hasn't he? I think those rules apply to both caucuses. My point was more about the general air of civil disobedience happening in the LNP caucus. I know certainly my side had a fair few things to say about Andrew's proposals on superannuation, and I saw that Peter Costello has come out today suggesting that we reform superannuation more broadly. And, you know, Peter Costello has never come across a program designed to lift up working people that he hasn't wanted to cut in favour of business. So forgive me if I don't run into the warm embrace of Andrew and Peter and all of those people on the other side of the fence who seek to reform superannuation.
Senator Bragg might have a warm embrace for Peter Costello, though. You welcome those comments?
Well,
Star
there's
recruit.
look, I mean, the superannuation scheme is designed to work for workers, and their Treasurer has announced a retirement review, and I think that will be the appropriate place to evaluate some of the issues that have been raised by me and others, and so I very much look forward to those terms of reference being released by the Treasurer.
Just to Anika's point before, have you received any blowback from your Liberal Party colleagues for your comments on superannuation in your maiden speech?
I think there are always mixed views put forward by colleagues, and I welcome that. But very much looking forward to participating in the review. I think the questions about super really are, is it going to get people off the pension? Is it contributing to national savings? Will it improve retirement incomes? And I think these are legitimate questions which will be addressed in the review.
And as I said, Peter Costello endorsing the position, or at least part of it, as advocated by Senator Bragg in his maiden speech, his first speech. Thanks so much to you and Anika Wells. We'll catch you next week. Coming up after the break,